On today's edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, we have artist slash graphic designer Carlos Solano on the show to discuss art, spirituality, and all the work that he's done around South Florida in promotion of the Florida Panthers and sports. We're going to discuss this next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast.
Your Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
And welcome into this Monday, January 30th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We're to our team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez. You can follow me on Twitter at MondoMan12. Follow the show account on Twitter at LO_FLA Panthers. Don't forget to also enter our contest to win 2 free tickets to the Florida Panthers versus Tampa Bay Lightning game by sending in your subscription to the Locked On Florida Panthers YouTube page and sending in your screenshot of that and your 5-star rating to me at LockedOnFLAPanthers at gmail.com or LO_FLA Panthers via DM for your chance to once again win 2 free tickets to the Florida Panthers versus Tampa Bay Lightning game. So, Cats fans, this is a very fun episode that I'm really excited to be recording, and I hope that you guys have just as much fun listening to this as I am conducting this. And what a better way to bring in a person that is very well known around South Florida and just the promotion of the Panthers and his art to all of South Florida. And you know him from Vamos Gatos night, and even prior to that, from the Florida Panthers game on January 14th. And here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, it is Carlos Solano. And Carlos, welcome to Locked On Panthers. Great to have you here.
Hey, thanks for having me, Armando.
So thank you once again for joining. And your work really intrigued me last year, basically, when the mural in Downtown Fort Lauderdale was completed, which if you guys the listener want to check out that mural, it's at 512 Northeast 3rd Avenue, Fort Lauderdale, Florida 33301. And driving down that, just a warning, it sneaks up on you. You have some palm trees in the way, you arrive at a convenience store, and then it pops up out of nowhere. And just seeing how big that was for once I arrived, I saw it back in August. Tell us a little bit about that project that you worked on around this time last year.
So that project was a blessing that showed up. A buddy of mine who runs a curating agency connected the dots with the Panthers, and they had this vision for this giant mural at the Commerce Building, and my style was the perfect fit. And then also my background in sports licensing and designing for sports licensing kind of like was the first like real molding point where both of these forces can kind of come together. So they hit me up, they sent me the inspiration board. I kind of looked at it a little bit and then I hit them back with a bunch of sketches. The process was pretty organic. We did a lot of back and forth on emails, some sketches. I spoke to the message behind the mural, which is uniting the South Florida vibe, the Panthers vibe, kind of giving them a little bit of a street edge, a little bit more of a playful vibe. It was just a lot of emails and a lot of back and forth. But when it came to summer 21, we got busy. We made it happen.
Mm-hmm. And that's where it started, just a great relationship with the Panthers. And of course, if you're watching this on the YouTube, you can see that I have my Vamos Gatos shirt. And then right behind me, I have the shirt from the Vamos Gatos night from January 14th against the Vancouver Canucks, where the Florida Panthers did get a win in that one. And the Panthers wearing the warm up jerseys as well. And then the players talking about how they want to see that as like an actual game jersey one day. Talk to us not only about the design, but how you felt about not only the players liking it, but how it was received around the community.
So the design was again, my job was to connect the Latin culture here in South Florida to Panthers. As you know, you and I know that a lot of teams do Noche Latina, and it's always a sugar skull or something very Mexican. And I pitched to them the idea of like, hey, South Florida Latin community and Latin culture, it's its own thing, right? There's the cafecitos, the dominoes. We're very tropical. We represent the Caribbean. We represent South and Central America in our own way. Um, so I came up with a design that takes inspiration from all those different cultures here in South Florida. You know, like the cafecito is the iconic Cuban drink that we all know. It's the Cuban gasoline, right? Cuban rocket fuel is what they call it.
Yes.
And then the dominoes is also a very popular game in all of the Caribbean, all of Latin cultures. And then the oranges and the lemons represent the citrus that Florida is all known for. The chilies represent spice in our cultures. So all those things come together, and I think what I used to tie everything together was the panther being the sun and the palm trees that represent the tropical surroundings, our environments here in South Florida. So it was kind of like bring all those stories together and coming up with the super cool design that I'm so proud of. I couldn't even tell you. And it was a hit. It was a hit. It was I remember when I sent the sketch internally, I got everybody texting text messages from all the team and all the graphic designers, and I didn't know. I had no clue what kind of impact this was going to have, but come January 14th, it was very clear that this design was a hit, and everybody loved it, and super awesome, man.
Mhm. And that not only did that help promote you and of course promote the culture as well, which was your mission, it's giving you an opportunity to be back doing something with the team in the future, regardless of whether there's something scheduled right now or not. And of course all your designs with actual game jerseys as well, not only for the Florida Panthers, but of course what you've done with the Miami Dolphins as well. And of course, players liking it. Panthers defenseman Matt Kierstead went to the actual mural in downtown Fort Lauderdale as well. But also talk about how, in relation to um, art and culture, to like hip hop music, and relating that to where you're from as well, as the correlations, because those two go two and two together. It's like peanut butter and jelly.
For sure, for sure. And before I get to that, I'm going to say that I also had the opportunity of meeting the general manager who wanted to meet me to discuss the jersey and how he felt about it and how like he was excited for this to be, maybe something permanent in the future, or maybe this sparks, maybe an idea to do something that's more an alternative jersey, or maybe the new reverse retro or something like that. But yeah, but getting to music, like music is a huge part of my life. It's been, one of the biggest parts of my life growing up. I was born and raised in the South Bronx, New York, which we all know is the birth home of hip hop, and some claim salsa music, but I'm definitely claiming hip hop. But yeah, I grew up in New York, and music was the rhythm of the city. It was the soundtrack to my life, and grew up listening to salsa and hip hop and funk, some disco. Once I got into high school and colleges, and I got introduced into the Z100, which is like more pop and rock, and so music has always been a part. And I'm sure I don't know if you've been to New York, but those long train rides, you need those headphones, and you need that, you need something to zone out to and kind of enjoy and deal with all the people. And so music has been a big part of my life, and I think it was only fitting that it find a home in my artwork. Again, I paint about a lot of different things: spirituality, nature, but music is usually like the first one that that gets to the concept board. And yeah, it's very important. And I think being a Latino, I think we can all understand that music is the rhythm of the heart, right? So that's where
Absolutely.
that comes from.
Absolutely, and I want to get more into that, the rhythm of the heart, the music, the spirituality, and all that stuff, and how that fits with you and your life, as not only in your art, but in your walk of life as well. We're going to discuss that next year on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. But first, we're going to tell you all about Athletic Greens, and our next partner is a product that literally use every single day, using Athletic Greens because, like Carlos and myself, we love our cafecitas, our cortaditos. And there's this thing in South Florida called ventanita culture. You can just pop up to a window, order your coffee, and then just walk away. But sometimes that could be a little bit too much, if you have a little bit too much coffee. So what I do is I take some athletic greens in order to help me. So what is this stuff? With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help start your day right. This special blend of ingredients support your gut health, nervous system, immune system, energy, recovery, focus, and aging. All the things. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. With just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1 year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL network. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/NHL network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Back on this second segment here on this special edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, I got artist slash graphic designer Carlos Solano, as you guys know from Vamos Gatos Night, and even previously from his art in all different types of sports. So, Carlos, we just wrapped up talking about music in the previous segment, and just it fits to your message on your social media about positive vibes, positive energy. I'm actually gonna full screen you real quick to show them the hat that you even have on. What show the audience what you have on. You have a hat that says positive energy. You're all about just having a great walk of life, and just from what I noticed, just being consistently a good neighbor. Tell us about where that comes from.
Man, I would kind of say that that came from my mom at an early age, where she kind of led by example by always worrying about the neighbor and the well being of others. And growing up in the Bronx, there's so many people in a building in a neighborhood, all kind of cramped together in the same social situation, and we would always help each other. My mother was always the first, one of the first to like lend out and make sure that people around us were good. And I would say that I kind of committed to that mindset around like 2008, where I had this little thing where I would just go on Facebook and I would Google whatever positive quote I thought was cool, right, and I'd post it on Facebook and be like, "Hey guys, wishing everybody a cool day," and it was just in hopes to like just brighten somebody's day or give somebody a little pat on the back, and I felt that once I kind of committed to being a full time, or not a full time art, but once I committed to the art and creating art and being a full time creative, I felt that that would be a critical or fundamental value in my work, right? To just be uplifting and promote positive vibes and feel good, and yeah, it organically kind of like merged together into that. So that mentality with the love of music, the love of my upbringings, and just the love for art just kind of all came together to kind of become what it is today. And I like to say that my artwork is, I don't claim it to be surrealist or impressionist. My artwork is feel good artwork. I want my
Mhm.
artwork to represent a good vibe. I want it to give people, a smile or a good feeling, and then you go back to the day, right? Go back to whatever it is you got to do. But at least my work, I want it to represent just like a quick pause, quick smile, a little boost of good energy, and then you
Yeah.
go, whatever it is. So,
Yeah, and you talk about that merging, and I think of it like a spider web, like the web of connections and all that stuff into all of that. And then when you talk about just it's not your work not being surrealist, I think of it as you do what you feel makes you feel good. It's not a competition with you and other people as well, as long as you feel good about what you put out there personally. But also talk about the start of your artwork, when it started.
oh man, I'm gonna say that I probably 2008, 2009 is when I said, hey, I gotta really commit to just being a creative and finding what my voice is as an artist. At the time, I was a graphic designer, but as a graphic designer, you're just there to do what you're told, honestly, and to create for the benefit and the profit of the company or whatever it is that you're doing. So you're as an artist, I felt that my voice was heard creating my own work and kind of like having this positive mindset and wanting to use bright colors and using all this inspiration that I grew up with. Um, that was kind of like the I felt like I had all the ingredients to make the awesome recipe that everyone's gonna love, and it was just a matter of putting everything together and delivering it and developing it because styles and looks take time to develop. But luckily as a graphic designer, I can feed my family doing that while I figured out what my message and my voice was as an artist. And thankfully, man, it worked out. Everything lined up, and with my knowledge of working in the corporate world and working with the leagues, I'm now able to take my personal artwork and push and pull it in different directions to create a Panthers jersey, to create something for a children's book, which I'm working on, or murals at schools and all these kind of different things. So the fundamental values of my work are there and live, and I can take that wherever I want. So yeah, it started then, and it's been growing ever since. Thankfully,
And the best part is that at this point now in your life, because you built that up, is that you are your own boss. We spoke about off recording about family and kids. Number one, that if there's ever like a case of emergency, that you get to go into your office at 8 a.m. or up to 3 a.m., which is where you are in right located right now, which you're recording at. Which you were telling me about an event that you had that ended at 10 p.m. and then you jumped on here. Talk to us more about your uh, I guess you could call self-employment, but being your own boss, and of course the family outside of work, and just being able to be daddy when you need to, and also knowing that, hey, I get to do this, and this is the time that I want to dedicate at this point in time now.
yeah, it's super cool, man. It's free for sure. Like just to know that I wake up in the morning and I choose what happens when and where. Um, I'm a father of two kids. I got a beautiful wife and two beautiful daughters at home. Shout out to Liz, Amali, and Sophia. I love you girls. Um, and yeah, there's days where I got to be home. I got to be home and take care of the little one. Maybe she's not feeling too well, or maybe there's a school picnic or a Christmas show or whatever it is, and I can be there. And then there's times that I'm here at the studio, crack of dawn. Today was a perfect example where I dropped the kids off, and I had to finish a mural for a mural fest today, and I was at the wall bright and early, 8 o'clock, spray painting on the lift, and I run back and pick them up from school and do the whole daddy daycare thing, and then go back out and work another event like you mentioned earlier. So it's cool. I have the flexibility to be the best artist I can be, and also be the best father and best husband I can be. And I got an awesome team at home who supports me, who loves me for what I do, and they believe in me. And they understand that sometimes daddy's got to do a little bit more than necessary, but sometimes daddy's around more than he should be. So it's awesome, man. It's freeing, it's a blessing, and I'm here to stay. This is This is what it's gonna be. So I'm cool with that.
Hey, and sometimes you have your seasons of when you're there, and sometimes your season of when it's time to get to work as well.
Okay.
And that's where your work fluctuates. As a person who's self-employed myself, I don't usually reveal this too much about me personally. Sometimes your income fluctuates as well throughout those
Yes,
times.
absolutely,
Some of the things that I don't necessarily talk about publicly too much,
absolutely.
based on seasons. But those are the sometimes the times where, hey, this is my season, definitely, to buckle down at this point in life in order to just make something meaningful as
Sure.
well. But I want to transition over to our third and final segment and talk about being in South Florida, coming to the Tri County area, and of course the different involvement in sports that you've had, in this region. But first, we're going to tell you guys all about FanDuel. And FanDuel is now the number one sports betting partner of Locked On because they're the number one sports book in America, FanDuel. And if you're new to FanDuel, that's even better. They have so many great features that make betting on sports fun and easy. New customers join today to get started with $150 in free bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Just sign up at fanduel.com/locked on. FanDuel has your favorite bets from the money line to point spreads to player props. Plus, you could even combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout on same game parlay. All on the app, safe and secure and easy to use. So football fans, don't miss out. Place your first $5 bet to get $150 in free bets, win or lose, at fanduel.com/locked on. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Third and final segment here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Very thankful to have artist and graphic designer Carlos Solano right from his studio, in South Florida, to talk about his art and, of course, the connection with the Florida Panthers. But, you know, of course, being Puerto Rican myself, two Puerto Ricans talking on a podcast, which is so awesome. I have my Puerto Rican hat that's actually signed by Lin-Manuel Miranda, right, that I'm wearing right now. That I got to meet him in 2020 and actually 2021, excuse me. And it was just one of the coolest moments of my lifetime getting to meet him. But there's a lot of pride that comes to being from that area, whether it's Bronx, Washington Heights. But also, I want to ask you, what made you move down here to South Florida?
Funny. So my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, she said, "I'm leaving. You coming?" And I said, "Yeah, I guess I'm leaving. I guess I'm going with you." And it was meant to be, man. It was she changed my life when that move, and as an artist in New York, I was in a position where like we're very stagnant. Things weren't happening the way um the way I would like. So she provided me this fresh, blank slate for me to make the best out of. And that I had just recently, kind of committed myself to artwork. And there was this little neighborhood called Wynwood that was starting to brew up.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, all right, man, let's go give it a shot. And luckily, as a graphic designer, as a freelancer, everything's online and just keeping everything on email. So I was able to like hit the floor running as a graphic designer, but then also reach out to Wynwood, reach out to everything and it's also brand new colors, right? South Florida has its own tone. It's new animals, new plants, new flowers, all these new things that are polar opposite of New York, where everything's gray and pigeons and not the cleanest place and a lot of people. Um, so I got here and it was just like finding a brand new color palette, and I had a chance to create new stories, merge those stories with my stories from back home, um, get involved in the Wynwood scene to the best of my ability. But I literally just kind of just stuck my nose in wherever I could, knowing that This was all virgin territory for me. Um, and yeah, man, my wife said, "I'm leaving. You coming?" And we went. And my one hope and dream was to make my art flourish down here. Thankfully, I met the right people. I met a lot of friends. Shout out to Lebo, who's my biggest mentor and my biggest inspiration. I connected with him, and he's a Cuban American artist based here in Miami. He was the first person to tell me, "I believe in you. You can do it." And man, like, that one sentence changed the fucking. I'm sorry, the trajectory of my career. And luckily I've met other artists who are active and working in the space, and they believe in me. They see potential in my work, and it was just building relationships and moving, and being kind, delivering quality, focusing on being as professional as I could be, and taking all these attributes that make me who I am, and putting them out in a way where I'm here to work, I'm here to grow, and luckily it's all going in the right track. So Florida for me is home base. I love it. I'm a New York boy at heart, but man, I dropped the anchor here, and I'm here to stay. And uh, working with the Dolphins, working with F1, working with the Panthers, working with all these local teams and companies and organizations who believed in me and in my work and in my vision. Uh, super blessed to say the least.
Yeah, and I could tell one thing that is you are a student of life. I can tell that that is the how you walk. There's a little bit of a pep in your step when you say, and that a little bit of ego is let go from you when it comes to just always being an open ear when it comes to even probably in the beginning of when you were starting to do this journey with your art of people who have been there, done that for it, and of course you mentioning your mentor is definitely a big one. And sometimes even when people believe in you before you believe in yourself, and then I can tell that it's really helped you in the confidence of yourself, that it's just like, even though you don't need the compliments, it's good fuel either way.
For sure, and it gives you the courage to keep going, because this, as you know, when you're working for yourself and you're trying to chase this dream and goal, you're gonna run. You're gonna get dark times. You're gonna get times where you're sitting in bed like, man, is this going to work? Like, am I wasting my time? Or like, so just having those words really help you get through those spaces, because usually mentors and friends who are further down the road in terms of their careers, they've been through that, and they can, they see enough, they saw enough in me to know that I'm going to get through those things. And at the time, I really couldn't see it. Right, I'm a big failure. Right, I said at that point, and luckily, I've had those guardian angels in my life to keep me focused, to keep me going, and also my upbringing is my mom, watching my mom make something out of nothing, and my dad slave at a factory, and they could do it, and they came here from Puerto Rico and Colombia with a hope and a dream, and why wouldn't I be able to roll up my sleeves a little bit further than they did to see what I can do of my dreams, and provide the best I can for my family.
Yeah, and we were both talking about how you are first generation here in the U.S., just like myself here, and setting a little bit of a foundation of, also maybe a little bit of a culture that's very different than what we experience here, and having to make adjustments too,
Yeah,
and them having to make adjustments and learning while their brains are already developed, and then having to raise children whose brains aren't developed as well. That's a hard task for any parent coming raising a kid
for sure.
first generation here.
Sure. I remember my parents trying to help me with homework at 6, 7 years old, and these people could barely read. They could barely speak Spanish. I mean, speak English, let alone help me with grammar and help me with like writing essays. And it was tough. They had to go through their struggles, and they had to make serious adjustments in their lives to provide better, and vice versa for us. But I think you and I can attest to that. It's our duty to keep that momentum moving forward, right? And not
Mhm.
move our people and our culture and our families in the right direction, and uplift and educate. And so I'm thankful for the struggles, even though they were rough at times. I can remember, man, those nights scratching my head, like, man, I don't know how to write an essay, and I can't really ask for help. And they're doing the best that they can, but we're here. We made it through.
Yeah, a life with no struggles leaves opportunity for complacency. So,
Oh, that sounds
be
boring as hell, if you ask me.
yeah. So So yeah, very happy for you and your involvement in not only the Panthers but in these other sports, like you said, Formula One, uh, Dolphins, murals at schools, NASCAR as well. And one last thing before we wrap up is the a shirt that you like to wear that says compassion on it. Um, very strong message that you. I don't, how many of those shirts do you own, by the way?
Well, that's one of my shirts from my collection. I saw those on my website, and so I own a bunch of them.
Okay.
But yeah, this positive energy hat is also from my collaboration with a local brand here called Devious Elements. And yeah, these are things that I create, again, using my knowledge as a graphic designer. Um, Sometimes I don't want to just put my artwork on a tee. I'd rather put the message behind what I stand for. So it gives you a reason to buy the artwork and the tee. So a little bit marketing behind that, but again, I think this is a good opportunity for me to like just put my message on the forefront. So making T-shirts that say compassion, give thanks, positive energy. I dare people to wear these shirts because it's not easy. It's not easy to put that on your chest and tell the world this is how I see things. This is how I feel about things. Everybody wants to wear the cool tough guy shirt. That's cool, but wear a shirt that says empathy or compassion or give thanks or love thy neighbor or positive energy, and see that you'll get more attention wearing these types of messages on you of hope and light. And you kind of got to stand by it. I mean, you got to, if you're gonna wear it, you got to be about it. So I'm all about it. I think these are a great vehicle or avenue for me to share my message as an artist and share my views as a human being. And yeah, that's kind of how I put that forward.
And it makes people more approachable that way, in my opinion, when a message like that is definitely sent. But
Yeah.
this was such a great conversation, Carlos. For everyone listening, if you want to follow Carlos on social media, whether it's on Twitter or at Instagram, both of his ats are at it's with a Z underscore C Solano. If you want to also look at all of his work there and all of his promotion and all the events that he is involved in. But before we wrap up, Carlos,
Yeah.
tell everybody where they can find your work to buy a positive energy hat or a compassion shirt. Tell everybody where they can find it.
Cool. So you can go to csolano.com, and there's a shop there where you can get artwork, original prints. I do a lot of small collections of paintings and sketches at reasonable price points for new collectors or ongoing collectors. And then occasionally I'll drop some apparel, I'll drop some limited edition prints. Um, it's always rotating, so I always invite people to come back and check out what's happening. Um, I got this cool thing where I upcycle trash and make it into artwork, whether it's old spray paint cans that I've used at a mural that are empty, and I repurpose them as artwork, or I make my own paper and recycle paper that way to make sketches and artwork. So you can see all of that at csolano.com/shop. Um, check it out. Check it out frequently because it's always changing. And I appreciate the support if you do go.
Absolutely. And go support Carlos Solano and his shop, his artwork. And if you, of course, if you hit the follow button, you'll definitely be up to date on his work. But Carlos, I want to say thank you so much for coming on the show, and I can't wait not only to see what you have next not only at a Panthers game but in the South Florida community, and I'm very excited for you, and I want to say thank you, and I hope to have you back on again.
And it'd be my honor to be back. Thank you for having me. Thank you for being curious about me as an individual. I mean, it's always about art, but sometimes it's nice to just chop it up about all the background stuff. So I appreciate you opening your platform to me, and yeah, man, can't wait for the next one. Maybe we'll catch a game together when you're down here.
Yeah, hey, it's on the record now officially, so we got to make it happen. So thank you, Carlos, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks.
And if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL Network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey with Flip Livingstone and Steel Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects with Heidi Halakash. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. And for your second listen of the day, make sure to listen to today's episode of Locked On Sports Today. Peter Bukowski brings you a 20-minute or less podcast on the entirety of the sports scene with some local experts and the take of the day. Follow Locked On Sports Today on the Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get podcasts. So I'm Armando Velez with Carlos Solano, and you've been listening to the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.